Welcome to another new episode of the Get Organised with Decluttr Me podcast with myself, Shalina. Today, we're going to get onto a topic that's on everyone's mind, but can often feel really overwhelming: financial wellness. To help us unpack it all, I'm thrilled to welcome Carol Glynn to the show. Carol is a chartered accountant and coach with over 20 years of experience as CFO for international companies across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. She's taken this wealth of experience and transformed it into her work as a financial wellness coach and mentor, empowering both individuals and businesses to optimize their finances. Through financial literacy and mindset coaching, Carol helps her clients reshape their relationship with money. I'm excited to dive into her insights today. Carol, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, I am as well. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you start with your journeys? How did you go from a CFO to becoming a financial wellness coach?
It was a progression, like a lot of people, but essentially I had realized quite a few years before I actually took the leap that I just wasn't enjoying my job. I worked for amazing companies surrounded by amazing people. I couldn't point a finger at anybody or anything other than it just wasn't for me. So then how it came about is I was almost forced, or no, I was given the gift of a redundancy. So that was like, okay, because it's very hard to leave a very secure, stable job where you're doing well and people are lovely and everything's great, nice money. And then that happened. So I said, okay, this is the universe helping me. Let's do it. So I took some time out, wanted to figure out what I wanted to do next, and did some research. I didn't know when I didn't have that side hustle on the side. I just said, right, now's the time. And especially when I was, luckily being approached for interviews and my whole body was saying, no, I can't do this. So then I sat down and I looked at, right, what do I want to do? What do I like? What do I not like about my current career? What can I utilize with my skills and my experience? Because I did not want to leave 2 decades just gone. And I came up with financial coaching. And in the beginning, I got really passionate, specifically about women. Because the more research I did, the more conversations I had, I realized how massively underserved we are in the financial services sector when it comes to money. I had personally experienced that on multiple cases, and I was an accountant, a CFO, a very confident and outspoken person, and I was discriminated against and judged and pushed aside. So I thought, maybe this is somewhere where I can actually make a difference, help, make some money, because that's important. I have responsibilities, and utilize my skills.
And so how were you judged? What happened to you when you were going?
I'll give you one example. So when we bought a property here, this was back in 2016, and it was a substantial property, and the mortgage was going to be in my name. Everything was based on my CV. My husband, we decided we'd separate them because it just made sense. So it was all going to be me, but he was involved, of course. It was a joint decision, just on the back of my credentials, I guess. And we would go to conversations and they would talk to him. The banks, the brokers, the real estate agents, everybody would talk to him. And they would have details of my profile. It's not like they didn't know I was a regional CFO. I was the finance person. I was the one whose money was making this happen as far as they were concerned. But they'd talk to him. And I had that when we bought cars, anything to do with money. And he used to just laugh and say, you really need to speak to her or this is going nowhere. Like, as she used to, talk to her, don't talk to me. You're not doing yourself any favors here. But I think just naturally they gravitate towards the man. And I hear that from women across the world. It's not a regional thing necessarily. It's just unfortunately how we've developed in this world that he is the money person. He knows best. Therefore, I must speak to him, despite the glaring information of, well, actually, if he wasn't there, I would have been doing this by myself.
Yeah. No. I had it. The 2 times I bought cars, I've had the same thing. And the first time I went with my dad's and they did it. And my dad was like, I don't even live here. She's got the visa. Like, you need to talk to her. And I'd said, I'm buying the car. And they were like, no, sir. What color car do you want, sir? And he was like, I don't care. She's mine. So then we'd always end up at BMW. So I got my cars from there just because they came straight to me and went, madam, and I was like, they're the only ones who understand. And it's horrible. It is horrible when you're like, I'm paying. Like,
yeah, it is. And it does create loyalty when they talk to you. I just thought of another example, which was quite entertaining. Many years ago, I have a house in Ireland and I was having issues with my tenants. And they said that they were going to go to my dad. My dad had nothing to do with the house, zero involvement in that house. So because they couldn't get what they wanted from me as a woman, they were threatening my dad. And I was like, would you say that to a man? If you were fighting with your landlord as a man, would they go, I'm going to go to your dad about this?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. That's the thing.
It just wouldn't.
Like, what would happen if they went to your dad? Like, you go, and like,
yeah, he was like, what? Don't be, I'm no involvement in this. What are you talking about?
Like, he wants to keep the peace as well with his daughter. He doesn't care about like the tenants, isn't it?
Exactly. It's crazy.
Ridiculous. I can't believe that's so backwards there as well. Oh my God. Anyway, talk about trauma. Let's talk about financial trauma, because you speak about that, and so can you explain what that means and how like past financial experiences can impact a person's present financial experiences?
I think, it's like any other, whether we talk about big trauma, major, small trauma, it's kind of what we consider little things, but it's all impacting how we behave, and whether that's with your money or anything else. But we're talking about money here, that if I, perceived that I made a bad decision and lost money, or if I witnessed my parents, like 2008, for example, I often refer to, has created major trauma for a lot of people financially. Either even as a child, they witnessed their parents, the stress, things gone away, their lifestyle changed, creating divorce, or causing divorce because of arguments. Or it could be even something as small as, not as small, but like maybe not, you haven't lost everything. But I ended up having credit card debt and I was drowning in it and I couldn't get out of it. Or I lost a job and suddenly I didn't have an income. And it all comes down to our sense of security. And I think that's what financial trauma hits hardest, is our sense of security. Because if we think about it, everything we do needs money. Everything. Every decision we make every day is impacted by money. So if we're sitting with maybe subconscious, sometimes it's intergenerational, previous generations, we carry the trauma of theirs, it's passed down. And that's impacting how we live our life, because every decision we make, either we realize it or not, is impacted by money, which is impacted by how we feel about money, which is impacted by what has happened to us or someone around us in the past. And it really, really powerfully impacts what jobs we go for, what relationships we enter, what we allow ourselves to have or not have, how we live our lives. But we don't talk about it because it's not good to talk about money, and it's greedy. And why do you put so much weight on money? Why are you so focused on money? Are you materialistic? No. It's like saying, why do I care if I have healthy food to eat? Because I want a healthy body and I want to live my life in a good way. I want to have money that allows me to live my life and have a healthy relationship with money, because I need it to live the life that I want to live. And we really don't talk about it enough, the impact that it's having on us.
No, it's true. And I mean, I finally talked about I experienced a couple who catfished me, and not catfished me, but scammed me out of a huge amount of money. They befriended me for like years and did that to me. And they even paid for me and my family to go on holiday to Thailand with them. Like, they did so much stuff, and I talked about it finally to the newspaper here. And it was the first time I'd actually said it out in public and allowed the public to know this huge thing happened. And it was 2008, 2009. And I lost my job as well as a lawyer. So yeah, all it happened. So I have been in the same. So when I, saw that you talked about financial trauma, I was like, I had the trauma. I'm finally now, after all these years, getting through it. But yeah, no, it can affect you for like decades. Like it can...
decades, unless you and then it's interesting you said to say it out loud. It's really difficult, and that's when it's a major thing, when you can't put words to it, when you can't voice it. It's the hardest thing to actually face up to, but it's a thing that I've realized myself, that's something I need to look at, because if I can't voice it, it's impacting me. And it is a healing. It's a healing that we need to do, on many aspects. So yeah, I mean that is huge. Yeah. What you went through.
Yeah. And also is it's always the embarrassment, like that you got fooled, even, whatever trauma you credit card debt, that's also, it's like, you feel like an idiot. Like, how could you get into that state? But it happens, and it happens to so many people, right?
It happens to so many people. And that's why I talk a lot about the shame around money. And it's one thing where I do have to take deep breaths, because the shaming around money is really dangerous, extremely dangerous. I often, everyone thinks everybody else knows how to do this. Like they're born with the playbook and I'm not. And it's simply not true. And when we make a mistake or like that, we trust someone and they do this to us. The shame is on them. The shame is not on me. But we're often, I don't know if you experience this, but I have clients who've come to me, men and women, who've said they've gone looking for help or expressed this has happened to me and got met with, how could you be so stupid? What were you thinking? What you should have done? Well, what I would have done is, and you just end up shrinking back and going, I feel worse now. I'm looking for help and now I just feel worse. And that is prevalent. And it genuinely breaks my heart because it's really dangerous, especially for men. When we talk about the seriousness of, for men, culturally, I think globally, they are conditioned, of course not all, but the research is there that generally conditioned that it's part of their self-worth. So make good financial decisions, earn as much as you can, provide for your family, have the big car, or the nice car, the big house, have the things or whatever that is, but be powerful with money. And when they don't feel that, or when they've made a mistake or they've been subject to a scam, unfortunately, it has very devastating consequences because they have nowhere to go, nowhere to ask. Thankfully, us as women, we tend to get it better because it's almost assumed of us, which is sometimes equally annoying. Oh, of course, because she's a woman, she didn't know better.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we're given a little bit more empathy, maybe, but it's patronizing. Because it's like, well, yes. Whereas a man could equally have done the same thing, but for him, it's like, why did you do that? Where's your manhood, basically? Whereas we're told, oh, don't worry, we know you don't know these things. And we'll save you. Yeah. And I often say, look, there isn't, if we go to the extreme, there isn't a billionaire on this planet who hasn't made financial mistakes, multiple ones. Many of them have been bankrupt for decisions that they've made or bad partnerships where they've been, scammed or not having things in place. We all make mistakes. No one knows what to do. We're figuring it out. And these people are very good. They're professionals, the scammers, and it's getting more and more prevalent. Every single day there's new ones coming up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got scammed in the early days, but yeah, now you hear about all this stuff and I am so like the amount of calls I get and stuff. And I'm like, and I just make their lives miserable now on the phone. It's just my thing to do now. If I have time, it will be misery for them. And it's like, don't call me, But anyway, right, let's talk about something else now. So when you work with clients, do you find notable differences between men and women spending? Like, do they spend different? And like, especially with big ticket things, like we talked about cars. What is the difference you see with them?
And I do see this, but I love this piece of research which shows that in actual fact, when they researched and surveyed men and women spending, men actually spend more than women. Now, it's not much more. We're nearly on a par, like a few percentage points more, but the fact is they spend more than us. But what they do is, like you said, they will spend on bigger amounts less frequently, whereas we spend smaller amounts more frequently. And then the perception is that we are constantly spending, but in actual fact, men spend more. What I do find in my experience with my clients, it is that men do tend to want to spend on bigger things. They're happier to buy the nice car, spend more on the car, almost like invest in those things. Whereas women tend to shy away from that a little bit more, and because we are less comfortable with handing over large amounts of money. And we tend to be less comfortable with committing to a debt because for us, historically, and still very much so, most often than not, for women, money is a sense of security. So that's why we like to have cash. This is why we're okay with small things. We can pass it and enjoy those little things, but we're more scared of the bigger commitment because what if I can't pay? What if this goes wrong? What if it's the wrong decision? Whereas men, the nice car shows I'm doing well. The big house shows that I can do this. The life insurance is my responsibility. The investing for the future is me, generating wealth or creating wealth and also doing what's right for my family. So two very different perspectives on how they look at these things.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, yeah, because you're talking about that and I'm like, that's true. And I see it with clients, like, especially, but even now, but actually it's weird with clients. I'm seeing men shopping a whole lot more on clothes than before. There's always been a perception that women spend a lot on clothes, but men are spending just as much, if not more. And theirs is more expensive items, just as much. Like, so the obsession is trainers, like the expensive trainers. So men are buying them. So a lot of women still buy the bulk order of Shein, which drives me insane, and Zara and stuff, because it's so badly made. But that would be 1,000 dirhams of Shein, whereas the men will buy 1,000 dirhams of trainers. It might be one or two pairs. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that right now. So.
And that's it exactly. So they're spending more or less the same, but they probably get maybe 2 pairs of trainers versus 25 dresses. So the perception is, look at what she has, look at what I have. But it's just a value difference. Yeah. And it's because largely women, we tend to want to spend as little as possible because that's what we're told to do. Whereas men are told, you earn it, deserve it, and you need to look good. You need to show this. So it's really interesting, but exactly like you said, but they're spending the same amount.
It's weird because it's trying to change that perception though. Like, how do you do it when you talk to your clients? Because I'm always saying buy quality over quantity, which sometimes goes into, like, people start thinking about that more. But yeah, how do you do that with working with clients?
So first of all, it's bringing awareness to it, because very often the reason they come to me is like, Carol, we just don't know what's happening with our money. We think we're doing really well, but we're not having the results. We're not seeing the savings. We're not. When it's a case where, let's say there's no debt, but they're like, we're happy with our income. We're very conscious with our money, but yet we're not saving what we think we should be saving. What's happening? Feels like money's falling through my fingers. So first is the awareness. So it's actually highlighting, well, actually, look, this is where you're spending. This is where you're spending. Were you aware of this? There's always aha moments in that. And then it's going down to the root cause. So what drives you to spend 1,000 dirhams on Shein? 1, why are you shopping? And 2, why Shein and not go buy yourself 2 beautiful dresses for 500 each versus the volume that you're buying from here, and vice versa. What are the shoes bringing to you? What are the purchasing of that shoes feeding you? Or what need is it? And looking into it and really delving into, well, actually, is this serving you? Is there a limiting belief here? Is this something that we need to release? And sometimes it can be no. It can be, look, I just don't value. I like to wear different things all of the time, and I don't want to, I'm happy to do the rotation around. And if that's the way you want to live and you're consciously deciding, it's not because you don't feel worthy of the expensive things, or you don't want the shame of your friends seeing you're suddenly wearing a Gucci dress when they're all wearing Shein. Because you want to keep in line with everybody else. You don't want to be different. And vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so with women when it comes to money. Again, research backed, is that we don't like to step outside our community. So very often here, I'll have people come, the summer is a big thing, where they might come to Dubai and they're earning a nice salary and they're doing quite well. And, they're influenced, and we're influenced by who we're surrounded by. So they've gotten themselves the designer handbag and the nice clothes, and they're very comfortable with that and they're doing well. Then it comes time to go home. And all their friends are still home, and no one there has designer handbags, and no one there has these nice things. And then the shame and anxiety and self-reflection starts kicking in. And very often they won't bring them. So they're a different person at home, and they leave all their nice things and they wear their Shein, in this example, home. And it's looking at, well, why?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Because it's the same, yeah, when I go home. No, I do. I mean, I still wear it because I'm like, I've spent the money. But yeah, my friends don't. Yeah, you're right.
They don't. And as women, it depends. Obviously, then it's personality and it's our sense of self as well. But very often we just don't want to be different. We don't want to be judged, especially if you live in a place or your friends at home are very much like, the wealthy are bad. Money is bad. Oh, look at you and your flashy things. And comments I used to get about, like, always like, oh, do you remember when you were in school and you only had this, pulling you down?
Oh my God, yes.
Back when, oh, look how you have changed since we were in school. We never had them in school. And It's far from that you grew up from. And I'm like,
You've worked hard enough for it.
exactly. Yeah. When rather than saying, wow, well done, look how much you've progressed, you've worked hard, encouraging and being, it's like almost, as we say in Ireland, like cut the legs out from under you, keep you grounded. Don't get too big for your boots. Remember who you are. And you can remember who you are and stay true to your roots and still have nice things. Like they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, no, but that happened. I mean, I worked in London when I started working in London as a lawyer in the early 2000s. So that's when designer bags started becoming a thing. And I bought my first Gucci on sale because I used to have sales then. And I remember going to work and people were saying, and I remember always this girl said to me, how can you afford this and everything? And she's like, oh, it's because you stay at home. And I'm like, I pay £500 a month for travel. So I'm paying my rent with the commuting back and forth from Kent. I live with my parents, but I've worked hard to earn this. So it was, and that was over 20 years ago. And that still happened. And I've because of that, I've always said, no, I've worked hard. I earn this money. I'm buying. So my bags are my thing, like to say, yeah, I've worked hard for this, so I can buy it, kind of.
Yeah. And that's exactly the way to do it. But yeah, it's funny when you say that, like it is, people try to then justify, how does she do it? And it's like, oh, it's because of this. No, it's because I actually, it's like they need to find a reason. And it's themselves. It's that projection. They're feeling, why aren't I able to do that? Oh, it's because of that. That's how she does it and I can't. And it kind of diminishes. And it feels diminishing for us to go, well, you're diminishing my hard work and what I have done here. But I love that you just say, well, yeah, because I worked hard. Whereas in the past, I do that now as well. And two things here. In the past, I would have said and tried to over-explain and justify it and hide it so that the other person doesn't feel bad because they clearly are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be having this conversation. Whereas now I sit in that sense of like, I know what I did to achieve this and I know why I have these things and that's enough. But also the purchasing of the bags, that's the thing I see a lot where this guilt and shame around buying it, not buying it, it's a waste of money. Ooh, I leave it in the bag. I protect it and don't use it. I'm like, oh my goodness, why have you got this in your wardrobe? It's just a decoration that's hidden behind the door. Use it. And use it with that sense of when we want to do shopping. A lot of things I work with when it comes to shame around shopping is buying things that are important to you and put a positive energy around them. I'm buying myself this Gucci handbag because I just got a bonus. No, it doesn't matter. Like you don't need an excuse, but it might be I just got a bonus. I worked hard. You know what? I had a crappy week and I have the money to do this and this makes me feel good. And I'm proud of myself for achieving this goal or reaching this deadline. And then it's almost like, not that we need a reward, but it can be a process to help. And every time I wear that bag, it's a sense of, look what I've done. Yeah, I'm doing well.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's fun. And then it's joyful. And then you've got all this positive energy around your things as opposed to shame and hiding them. And I need to protect them. I need to protect them and not use them and wonder where I can use them and where I can't. And that's not fun.
No, it's not. And I say the same thing all the time because I see so many people with the bags and they're not using them. I use my bags to death. So I don't change bags. So once I've bought I buy a new bag and I use it to death. It's banged up. It's everything. I don't care. I haven't got any kids to give it to as heirlooms. So I'm going to use it till it dies. You know what I mean? But spend money, use it, enjoy it, take it out. If you drop it, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's a thing.
Exactly.
It's our thing. We have to embrace it with everything, I think. It's funny. Like we have like the same kind of conversations, but on the other side, isn't it? So for women, like what are the kind of unique challenges you find with them when they come to manage their finances? Because we've talked about this, like the spending the money, but what other unique challenges do they have as well?
Probably the biggest thing is confidence that they can do it, belief that actually it is for them. That I am someone who can manage money well because generationally, again, we've been told we're not. If you think about in many locations, women still can't inherit assets. It goes to the man. It's only recently in a lot of countries we could have bank accounts. Getting credit is harder. Even if you talk about entrepreneurs, I mean, the percentage of women who get investment is like 1-2% compared to, obviously men get the rest. So we're constantly bombarded with, you don't know what you're doing, just leave it to the man. And when we absorb that, then it's the confidence to know what to do. So that's the biggest thing. The second one is actually allowing themselves to have more, which is really, really interesting. That the amount of women who come to me and say, look, Carol, I just want enough. Look, God, we definitely do not want to be greedy. We definitely do not want to be seen as that person who's like, yeah, I just want enough. And I always say, why not more?
Yeah.
Why is enough for you? Because enough is just barely getting by. It's no extra. There's no comfort in that. And normally they just start laughing because they don't know, because that's what we've been conditioned. Just have enough. Don't be greedy. Don't look for more. It's why, women don't ask for pay rises in salary situations when men do, or they make excuses for the request, whereas men go in with the, you need to tell me why you're not giving it to me energy, versus, oh, I'm really sorry, please. HR managers tell me this all the time. So it's the confidence, one, that they can do it, the belief that they can, and then two, it's that sense of it's okay to want more, that money's not bad. It's okay to want more, to be comfortable, to have wealth, to do well with your money. And once we kind of get past them, it's amazing, because actually research shows women are better with money than men. Again, not that I'm anti-men here, Mike. I don't always want to make that clear, but I'm just trying to, debunk some of these myths that are out there about how women are with money and how men are with money. And it's really, really exciting then, because once you take that kind of limiting belief away of like, I'm not good with numbers, I hate spreadsheets, I spend too much, and they step into the power of money and the ability to make their own decisions. And it's like, woof, opens up a whole new world. It's so freeing.
But there is that limiting belief. I mean, I even had it because of all the things I've gone through. And my father is a banker. He's very good at finance. So I've always learned from him, but I still had that limiting belief that I was useless. But now I'm like saving a lot, putting things into pension finally, and doing all these things that I thought as an entrepreneur I couldn't do because I didn't have enough. I wasn't earning, as much as I was before when so yeah, that's another limiting belief, especially for business women.
Oh yeah, it is. And again, it can depend on the industry you're in. I have, certain industries, it's really prevalent of like the creative, so artists, like they're actually, I had an artist tell me that she was told in university that if you want to make money, you shouldn't be here.
What?
By a professor, yeah, and to the class. Yeah. I mean, what is that telling a classroom of people to say, if you want to be an artist, you can't have money? Like it's and that limiting belief, if you buy into that, it's insanity. But we're told that in many different ways. A lot of my clients will say, growing up, as we go through this, because we do, as part of the coaching work is like digging into those limiting beliefs and figuring out where they came from. And it can be many different ways, but very often it is family, is where, I'm known in my family as the one who's no good with money.
And that's terrible. But
it's terrible.
Yeah.
As a child.
Yeah.
As a child, they made some decisions and then they're branded with that. And then it's very hard to step out and then you start believing that, because everybody jokes about how you're no good with money and you're up against that wall. And the limiting beliefs are, and especially for women as well, is it's largely, who am I to have this? And because we as women inherently tend to want to give back, support, do good with money, which is also why I'm so passionate about it, because why don't we have more money in the hands of those people and not the people who are not so positive value driven? And we've been told that money is bad.
Yeah.
Money is bad.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you strive for money, you're not a good person. If you have too much money, you're not a good person. So there's so many things that women deal with that men don't. Now, men have their own issues that create very, very serious problems. But for women, it is, the limiting beliefs are largely around, I shouldn't have more than I need. Who am I to have more than I need? I'm useless with money. Just who I am. It's just who I am. I'm not good with maths. I'm stupid. The minute they start talking about money, I just pull back because I feel stupid. I'd never be able to understand that. And he's just better at it than me.
That's so
probably
depressing,
the most things
isn't it?
I hear. It is depressing. It makes me really sad because none of them are true.
No.
It's so not true.
But then there is that, I mean, there's still that thing here in this country that I can't get a loan. Can't get a car loan now. I'm a woman. I'm a businesswoman. No, you can't.
No. Well, I think that's more about being an entrepreneur than a woman. Now, there probably is a woman in it. It's an entrepreneur issue here. I've seen that with men and women.
Oh, is men getting it as well? Because I thought
men's getting it.
I thought it's all the women.
No, it's not. It's men as well. It's because you're an entrepreneur. Now, there will be that element of, right, you're an entrepreneur, one, big black mark. Second, then there probably will be a bit more biased and more likely to give man that loan than a woman, but it doesn't start with male, female. It starts with entrepreneur. It's very, very difficult in this country to get any kind of debt or banking. It's getting better, but banking in this country is very difficult. Because people often think that, again, it's a limiting belief we've been told about working here. If we want to talk about here, about you can't have flexible working, you can't do well here. And while that does exist, but it exists everywhere, and I think it comes down to the company. I often give the example of maybe I'm an anomaly, I don't know. But I mean, I was a regional CFO in a heavily male-driven industry, both companies. If you think about insurance, arm protection and consulting. I mean, I was a CFO for a department that had 3,000 men in it and one woman. And I was not in that department. She was the one woman and 3,000 ex-military men. So can you imagine how male dominated that was?
Yeah.
But I was the finance person who it took work, and I made sure they respected me, but it happened. That it's where, sorry, I've kind of lost my trail there on that one. Oh yeah, where I'm saying that, we buy into these beliefs as women as well, that yes, there is truth in them, but we need to push past that truth. In my career in corporate, I was promoted without asking for that promotion, because I was that woman who never, asked, but I was given a promotion by my male bosses during both pregnancies. So I was pregnant while they promoted me. And I actually, at one point when I was pregnant with the twins, I pointed at my belly and I said, "You do know I'm pregnant with twins." And he was like, yeah, I don't care. Do you? Can you do the job? And I said, well, yeah, I can. Okay,
oh my
good.
God, he's an anomaly.
He is, yes. And he was, and it wasn't the same boss both times the promotions came. So, it is possible. We just have to believe that it is, and look for the right companies, look for the right situations. And then back to the mortgage. I mean, it was a substantial mortgage, and it was all on me as a woman. And people would say, women can't get mortgages here. Well, I did. And there was no issue. I mean, the only issue was they kept talking to him, but it didn't hold me from a practical perspective. They actually said yes to my, everything that was there. And I got it. And I got it quite straightforward, actually. And it was a woman broker who helped me, get the mortgage. I just got a brokerage to help me source it and all of the rest. So I don't buy into that thing of like women here are now, and that's not to say it doesn't exist. It does exist. And it probably does exist to a higher level here as we're moving forward than maybe Ireland or somewhere else, the UK or the US. But it is everywhere still. We still are fighting that battle to be seen.
I think in a certain way for here and a lot of expat countries, it's because we're expats and they think we're just going to run away. There is that.
For higher risk.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here for nearly 20 years now. So I've seen the people running away whenever there's been the crisis, So there's always that risk, isn't it? That they don't want.
Well, that's almost like a financial trauma for the banks.
Yeah.
When 2008 and everybody abandoned their nice cars and houses and left, and they were left with all the debt. So then their response to that is, say it's a pendulum, give so much credit, boom, give no one credit.
Yeah.
And treat everybody like they're a criminal and are going to run away with the money.
Yeah.
We're kind of coming back this way again now, I think. So it always swings. I'm like, can we not just sit in the middle? Why does it have to be?
No, it is. Anyway, so let us talk now so we've talked about individuals, but let's talk about couples. And can you share how financial coaching has helped couples find common ground and communicate more effectively? Because I see that a lot when I work with clients as well. They talk about stuff, but there's that financial bit in it as well.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, again, so many pieces of research where it says, and I would argue, it says that money is the number one cause of divorce in a lot of research. Others, it's always in the top 3. as to why people divorce. And then the assumption is it's because one or other was greedy, or one or other, you know, had massive debt, which is like a financial infidelity. It's a trauma in a relationship where someone has debt and the other person does not know. And it can have as much an impact as an infidelity, a physical infidelity, because it's a whole life that they were just not aware of. They're serious things. Largely when couples, like super serious things, largely when couples come to me, it's because, well, it's a mix of things. I'm having a lot of young couples who just got married who are like, Carol, we want to do this right from the beginning. We know we need to talk about this, but we just want to make sure we're not fighting from the start. Can you be that independent person? I'm like, amazing. Like, what a gift to each other. The other side is couples who are, you know, further on in their relationship, in their marriage, and have never talked about money, or when they do, they fight. And particularly when it's a stressful situation, like he or she has lost their job, they have debt, there's something bad has happened. And if we want to talk about specifically this region, very often what I've seen is what happens is, less now, but historically, when it was traditional that he was working and she was at home, which is the most common thing back 10, 15 years ago, let's say. And you were talking about couples in that situation still. So they've progressed. And he's at work, generally hates his job, is feeling very burnt out and stressed, wants to move but can't, feels very trapped because of the financial responsibility that he has, and the lifestyle that they have built up. She's at home taking care of the kids, organizing everything, because they say, you know, generally the dynamic is, even though men look to be like they're doing everything with the money, women are doing the groceries, the kids' stuff, booking the travel, organizing the maintenance on the house, you know, all of the day-to-day stuff, which is a large percentage of money that we're spending. And from what I see, and I am aware, of course, you know, it's a certain type of clientele that I'm working with, she's like self-sacrificing, saying, feeling guilty, I'm not going to spend on myself, I'll buy in Shein rather than, so that I need a new dress, but I'll just go cheap because I don't want to spend his money, or I just don't want to be spending money. But he's sitting in work, stressed out, hating things, and hearing, because of the banking system here, everything is on his account. And he's getting the ping, 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 money being spent, no context, just money's going. But she's spending again. And she's at home saying, I'm only spending on the kids, and I'm the one researching the groceries to get the best deals. I'm the one buying the kids' clothes in the sale because we want to save as much. But she's getting from him, what are you doing? You're spending too much. And she's getting, where's the gratitude here? I'm doing my best. You're accusing me.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a big thing here. And they tell me they have conversations, and it starts off quite well, but then without direction, and it gets emotional, because for women, it's again, that sense of security, and money is emotional. For men, it's that more powerful, you know, kind of harder view of money. They don't think of the emotions around it. And I often use this, that, you know, it's a 6 and a 9. She's coming at it from the perspective, I see 6. He's coming the other side. I see 9. They're looking at the same thing, but it's totally different. So what I do is basically bring clarity and bring perspective and a safe space, because you have an independent person there who can help manage the emotions to go, okay, well, tell me why you feel the way you do about money. What is that stressing you out, and vice versa. But largely, do you know what it is? We look at the numbers. We look at the numbers together. And that, especially for men, is really eye-opening, because they'll say, oh, I see, like she's not getting Botox every week and getting her nails done and having lunch with her friends. Actually, there's very little of her in here. We often see that. I don't see her. I see the kids. I see the house. I see, but actually, I don't see where she's spending money on herself at all. And naturally then, because he has the awareness and the knowledge, there's softening. Go, oh, okay. I understand. I know, clarity. Money loves clarity. I say that constantly. She can feel validated, and also a space to express, well, you know, this is how I'm feeling and I'm doing my best here. And then they come together as a couple to go, okay, there is an issue because we're both stressed. How do we fix this? And couples come back and tell me that they're closer than they were. They now have these common goals. They understand each other more. Another thing I would say is, for couples, you know, ideally before you get married, but if you're already married and you haven't done it, is actually sitting down and asking your partner, like, what does money mean to you?
Right. Okay.
What is money to you? it's really, really insightful to understand that.
What do they say? Like security or?
For men especially, they don't. Someone said to me a few years ago, it must be really hard to get men to open up about their emotions around money in that group setting. If I do a corporate workshop or a group workshop. And I thought about it for a second and I said, you know what? My experience has been, it's like a penny dropping, or it's really like, I can see it in their faces, that they realize there is emotion around money for the first time. It's not about opening up to it. The fact is they're like, no, because when I ask, I often ask in a group situation, I put up like a Mentimeter poll and say that, what does money mean to you? And when there's women in the room, it's always security, freedom, independence, safety. One time I had dignity, which kind of struck me. Dignity. Yeah, very interesting. And very telling. Whereas men, if there's a man in the room, you'll always have social construct, powerful, means to an end, investment, those kind of words.
Power.
It's power words. It's so, the split is so interesting. And then when I do the talks, and I say to companies, like, even though it's for women, invite men if they want to come, and they'll always say to me after, God, I understand my wife so much more, and I actually want to go home and talk to her about it, because I never realized maybe this is what she was feeling. Because to them, it's like, we need to save, we need to invest, we need to move forward. The big ticket stuff. So it's, for men, then that's what they'll say. For me, it's my job. I have to pay for things. I have to provide for my family. It's a thing I have to achieve. Whereas for women, we don't have that sense of I have to achieve. It's I have to get security. I have to be able to take care of myself and other people, and be able to take care of my family and have what we need to do what we need to do. And then when the couples understand that about each other, then it's so much easier to make joint decisions. The empathy that they have for each other when it comes to money and decisions that you're making as a family, whether we travel or whether we don't, I'm saying yes, you're saying no, but why? It's not just as simple as it's that lower, that kind of going under layer of, well, this is why, this is coming up for me. And I love it. It's really powerful. I've had so many couples say to me, well, Carol, we're deciding, we're, interviewing you and interviewing marriage counsellors because you were the marriage counsellor, because it's fight about this money. And that's why they specifically come and see if I can help.
That's amazing. But it's so true. And I mean, I've seen it with couples, because when I go to houses, the husband will always go, oh, she spends so much money. And then you see the wife just like, well, I'm buying from, say, Gibson's, and I'm buying all the sale items and doing this. And I can see it as well. So I will say, I'm like, no, actually, she's not. She's just spending for me, it's a normal amount. Like all my clients are normal in my world, because they have a lot of stuff, but it's normal. But yeah, the men will always say, and like they'll say, oh, she's always going to salons, or she's going out with friends. It's like, they don't. They're spending money on petrol to run around with the kids,
Yeah. Or you'll find that she might be going to get her nails done every week, because that's her. I remember my mother, the one thing she did for herself was she got her hair blow dried every week. That was her only me time, her indulgence in herself. And that was her gift to herself. And I think that's amazing. And as a child, I didn't understand. And I would have thought, God, that's quite indulgent, but especially given who she was. But in hindsight, I'm so happy that she did that. But often, like that example you give, and then we look at what he's spending. He goes to the gym every day.
Yeah.
He goes for drinks with his friends regularly.
Yeah.
He plays golf on a Saturday morning that is not a low cost
No.
sport here in the UAE.
No.
They've picked up paddle because all their friends are playing paddle, so they're gone there Sunday morning.
Paddle,
but that's not considered.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so they can hang out with their mates doing paddle, which is that new obsession. But she can't go and meet her friends for lunch, which is sometimes cheaper, because she'll find an entertainer voucher.
Exactly. And she'll be conscious and cheaper. And she probably doesn't have the time, because she's got like an hour till she has to pick up the kids. And that's where, but again, it's because, and obviously it's a no judgment space, but it is what I see. And thankfully, of course, it is a certain type of couple who come work with me. They're open to these conversations. It is very entertaining. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, oh, all right. Okay. I get it. Because they just didn't know. And it is when you're coming to that sense of, he's like, the money's going. And he doesn't know where it's showing him. this is where it's going. And like you do, like we're that independent person to go bringing awareness to it. It's easier than him or her trying to say, but I'm doing this.
Yeah. Because we can see it from an outside perspective. Like we don't care. It's not that we don't care, but we're not in your house. We're not going to care in the long run.
There's no, as we say, it's no skin off my nose.
Exactly.
Don't. Like, I'm just kind of highlighting the reality of what I see. Yeah.
No, it's true. But I think the self-care thing is needed for everyone. Like my close friend and I, we meet every month to go for a massage and then go for dinner. And it sounds like her husband's like, what? But now he's like, it's fine because he goes off to paddle. So we're like, this is our thing. And it's our way to make sure we meet each other every month and to spend time together, quality time, and also relax and like have the massage, but then chat away for dinner. And I think we need to have that kind of thing with our close friends. Like, otherwise you just don't have time to see them, do you? Like,
we don't, and we don't prioritize ourselves. And then when money is involved, we prioritize ourselves even less. And that's where I'd say exactly like that. So when I talk about the values, what's actually important to you? So what you've just described, to me, what I hear is connection, friendship. And if you both enjoy massages, then, that's important to me. Like that self-care, that physical self-care that I get. And I enjoy nice food and a nice restaurant with my friends. Like, why would you not spend money on that? If it just lights you up, I can see it even in your face. It lights you up. I'm happy about it. Whereas someone else might go, oh, I'll do that. She says that sounds amazing. But they don't care about restaurants. They're not comfortable in them. Or they're like massages or like whatever. Then that's not going to bring them happiness or that sense of everything they're trying to achieve. And they're like, I have this money. I'm doing the things. I'm still not happy. Why not? No, that's your thing. That's a brilliant idea. What would be my thing? And it might cost less. It might actually cost more. But what can I spend my money on to tick all these boxes of what's important to me, what replenishes me, what's in line with my value system, and do that. And that's when we are happier, when money helps to bring us happiness. Money's not bringing the happiness. We're using it to boost our happiness.
Yeah. And I mean, it is, and it's a double whammy for me because of my job is so physical. I need to do massages every so often because my body aches. My friend just wants to join in because it's relaxing for her. And then, of course, food. So, yeah, but as you said, I mean, I'm not a sports person, but other people might want to do sports, like play tennis with their friends or do something. But it's something we have to spend that money to look after ourselves as well. And as you said, to nourish yourself, isn't it? So, so we talked about couples. Let's talk about personal finance. So, what piece of advice would you give, which is like universal for everyone, like, regardless of their income levels?
Learn to manage your money in line with what's important to you. And especially if your income level it's relative lower than what you like it would be. Because in my workshops, I have this phrase I always use. It's not about what you earn. It's about what you do with it. And if you're not comfortable with managing what you have at your current income level, the problem is not going to go away with more money. It's actually just going to get bigger. So get clarity. Financial clarity is so powerful. Understand your habits, understand your mindset. Are you aligning your money with your values? Start there. Just that kind of self-audit. Audit sounds harsh. Self-review maybe of how you're spending your money, and be open to it because it's a very vulnerable space. It can be very, very emotional, and allow that and actually use that to teach you where am I not feeling comfortable with money. If you cannot look at your bank account, then ask yourself why. If you're terrified of your credit card statement, ask yourself why. That will tell you more than how to earn more money.
And
it's what you're spending it on.
Oh, sorry. And what do you do? People that might be earning less, have credit cards, don't want to look at that credit card statement. Would you tell them to stop using their credit cards? Because I would think that would be one step to start being able to manage your money better.
Yeah. Nothing will derail you faster financially than credit card debt. I call it financial quicksand. It is really, really difficult to manage, especially when you don't have excess cash in your income. That your cost of living is this, and there's a limited amount to pay off the credit card. I would say yes, put that credit card in a drawer, and ideally, what you want to do is freeze it. Transfer it into something like, here we have, if you have access to like transferring it into a 0% conversion with another bank. So you've got like a year to pay off that balance, cancel the current credit card, and then put the new credit card, because they'll put it onto a new credit card and then allocate it over a year at 0%. You can get these deals for a small fee, like 50 dirhams. Put that credit card in the drawer. It does not exist, and pay it off. If you don't have access to that, ideally get a consolidation loan, and structure it so that it's getting paid, and put the credit card away, and then learn to manage your money. Look at how you got into this situation in the first place. Now, it's not always through bad decisions. I worked with a lot of families, especially, not just families, but individuals too, post-COVID, where their income went away, and to survive, they had to use a credit card. It was either that or not be able to pay their rent. So there's a whole exercise I do there about, and then they're sitting in the shame and anxiety and guilt and regret and what ifs that are so heavy around that. So one is, okay, let's acknowledge this exists. You're back working now. Things are looking up. You don't need that debt anymore. It's time to look forward. But actually, there's gratitude for that debt, which people find a bit surprising. I'm grateful I had access to that, to be able to pay for my kids' schooling, to keep them in school when I didn't have income. Thank you, but I'm done with you now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a good way to think about it, like a reverse kind of way of thinking about that debt. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, because it's removing the trauma and the my back thinking about it. It's like, actually, and go me, I figured out a way to manage this so that my kids didn't have to move schools, or we didn't have to move countries while I sorted this out. I did that. Okay, now I don't need it anymore. Right, hyper-focus on getting rid of it. It's not a relationship I want to continue anymore. Let's move on. But I've learned a lot from it. So one, it's changing the energy around it, the mindset around it, the limiting belief that it's creating around it. And then looking at, right, how do we, as quickly as possible, sort this out so that you can move on with the next stage of your life with the lessons that you've learned. And it does 9 times, maybe 10 times out of 10 even, mean putting that credit card away. Get rid of it. I'm not saying forever, just until you sort it out, because you can't fill a hole while you're still digging it. You know, you can't put money in and then adding more to it. You have to stop spending on it.
Especially with the credit cards. I mean, the interest rates and everything is so high. I mean, I make sure I pay off the full amount every month. I'm just like, I've had the trauma before. I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, one thing people I've realized don't always understand here is the level of interest on the credit cards. That they're told, now the regulation is getting much better, thank goodness. So it's improving, the transparency is improving, the responsibility of the banks are getting higher to their customer. But in the past, they might be told, your interest is 3%. And they think, oh, that's really, really low. But what that person didn't finish in the sentence was 3% per month. Actually, it's 36%. You need to multiply it by 12. And then when interest rates went up, that could be 4%, 5%. Multiply 50% interest very easily. But someone's going, no, but it's really cheap debt. It's only 4%. It's not. And then the compounding, and what they've also been told, again, all you need to do is pay the minimum off each month. Because financial literacy is not taught. And people go, oh, but, and then they come to me and I don't understand my debt, and I'm ringing the bank and they're talking around in circles. And of course the bank aren't helpful. I don't understand what's going on here. I'm doing what I'm told I should do, but yet the debt's never going away. Okay, let me have a look. You're paying the minimum balance only. Why is that? Because I was told that's all I needed to do. And again, they didn't finish the conversation. That's all you need to do to avoid the late payment fee and meet your basic requirements. But to avoid interest, you need to pay the whole lot. That bit of the information is not given. Whereas, and people, I think, have too much trust in the banks, in that in other locations, there is that regulation that requires them to give you the full information. They're legally obliged to give you the full information. It didn't exist here, and people didn't realize.
Wow. That's shocking, isn't it?
Shocking. Yes. Anger inducing for me.
Yeah, it's traumatic. Like, yeah, but you're just saying that it's 3% every month. That's just, wow.
Yeah. And that's why they spiral out of control so quickly. And then people say, oh, because having credit card debt is heavily judged. And then people are, like we were saying earlier, going into that cycle of like, but I didn't know. How did you not know? You should know these things. Like, it's basic. I'm like, it's not basic if you're not told. Like, and if your frame of reference is trust the bank. I grew up in a society where you like, the banks were up here. Whatever the banks say, you know, the bank, go to the bank will help. Trust the bank knows. So if you're brought up with that, And that's a betrayal in itself. And you're like, but the bank conned me, basically. Or I feel conned. They didn't con you. I feel it. And then you're getting judged by your people you're looking for support. It's horrendous. Whereas for me, it's always like, look, this is, now. That's fine. Now. Let's sort it out. It's very, very stressful for people. Very, very stressful.
Do you work with locals here? Because I know culturally they have a big thing as well. And then they have a thing that if they have a credit card debt, they'll get a loan to cover up the debt. And so it's just a spiral with that, isn't it? And they can't talk to their family about it as well.
It varies family by family. And I work with locals, men and women. And they tend to have the same issues we do. They do tend to have a little bit easier access to funds with banks than we do. But the lack of financial literacy is still there. The credit card spending issue is still there. I mean, definitely, I think this region has one of the biggest problems with credit card spending globally. It's one of the highest utilizations of credit cards globally. And that's across all communities. When it comes to locals, and again, it is a certain kind of type of person who comes and asks me for help. Vast majority of them will say, I want to do this alone. I'm sick of relying on the bank. I don't want to go to my family and ask for help. I want to figure this out. It's time I stood on my own 2 feet, especially the women. It's time when I stood on my own 2 feet. Awesome. Yeah, I love it. And they're like eager because they've come to me asking for help. They're eager to learn and do it by themselves. And very entrepreneurial, very, very entrepreneurial. And I do think there is, from my experience, there is this perception that they get access to a lot of cash, but not always.
Yeah. I think it's like post 2018 again, it was less so. It was not as easy.
Yeah.
But they still have to keep up with the Joneses. I think that's a big issue what I see with buying the designer stuff and going on holidays, expensive holidays and all that stuff. That's keeping up with the family.
Last minute booking.
Yeah. There's a lot of spending in that sense.
I find, especially for, let's say, the more prominent local ladies, it is that, and the clothing and the presentation of themselves, there is a high expectation culturally for that. An interesting one for me that I learned early days when I started working with locals was, because I split expenses into needs, wants, and future self. So you've got, in your needs, is your basic needs, security based, so housing, medical, transport. Your wants, naturally, personal grooming is generally within the wants section. But one of my clients explained to me, no, that needs to be in needs. And look, and we create it to whatever works for the person. But I found that interesting, and I was like, well, why is it a need? So because personal grooming is so important in our culture, we need to do it. Whereas for me, it's kind of a luxury. Like, we're considered as like, you're pampering yourself. So it's having those cultural understandings as well as to how people are expected to live their lives, and the financial impact of that is really, really important.
And I suppose, it's a Western thing. Going for a haircut was it's not a need. It's, you have to do it every so often, get a haircut. I mean, here now, every month I go to my salon down the road to dye my hair, because I can't face dyeing my hair black and messing up my bathroom every month. And because I have to dye it so often, so I pay someone to do it. But when I tell my friends at home, they're like, you what? And I'm like, yeah, you can do that yourself. You can do it as well. They're like, no, that's just that's a waste of money. I'm like,
not for me. Might be for you, with how you want to use your money, but it's not for me. Because for me, it gives me X, Y, and Z. And that's the difference. And that's why we can't project on each other what we should be doing. There's no way I could go to that lady and say, that's ridiculous. Don't be putting that in needs. That's a want. That's not my place to say. It's for her to decide, actually, how do I want to live my life? How do I want to present myself? That's a need for me. Okay. And let's build your finances around that.
If it is, I've seen like the cultural differences. Living here and being here is different from being back home. You go back home and you say things, you're like, yeah, I've become too Dubaian now.
Sometimes we do need some grounding.
Yes. The worst is when I go to a pub at home and my friends, and I'll just sit down and my friends will be like, you need to go up to the bar. And I'm like, oh, they come to us, don't they? Like,
Or with my kids, when I pulled up at the petrol station and they were old enough to notice, and they're like, where's the man to fill your petrol?
yes. Well, I get
Well, I
excited. When I go home, I'm always like, I'll do it. And my dad's like, you're such a loser. And I'm like, yeah, because I never can do it. Like, sometimes
And my kids were so excited to learn. They were like, Mommy, just how to fill the car. And I was like, here's another life skill ticked.
But because we can't do it here, sometimes, you know, when you have to wait for so long for someone to come and you go do it, they start,
they freak out.
Yeah, they freak out. And they're like, and especially because it's, I think, a woman doing it, they're like, oh my God, why are you? And I'm like, I do know how to do this. I've been doing this for many, many years. Like, you know, it's an honest mystery. The only thing is that latch on the petrol, they don't have that back home. You know, where it holds on the thing.
Yeah.
They don't have it at home. I was very shocked. Like, that's why people have to stand there the whole time with the pump. I'm like,
With holding it.
right, one last question. So digital tools and fintech are like increasingly popular. I don't understand a lot of this stuff, especially crypto, but it's getting popular with financial management. And how do you see that helping like personal and business finance, you know, helping people deal with that stuff?
I think when you get a good one, it's amazing. For me, it's about efficiency and accuracy. We have a long way to go. There are so many tools out there. There are so many companies offering things, but I still rely on Google Sheets. You know, yeah. With my clients, it's on Google Sheets right now. Now it's almost there, but usual with tech, I have built AI into my Google Sheets to automate them. So that's, because for me, it's about efficiency and accuracy and ease. It's all about ease. So, because people always ask me, what's a budgeting tool I can use so I can monitor my money? How can I track how I'm doing throughout the month? And they don't exist. You do have some in other regions, but they don't work here. So they're not on the apps. They're not accessible here. So, and they are, I find, very, very, again, that kind of masculine energy around money of like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing wrong. Like, whereas what I'm building is something to show you actually what you're doing, lining it with your value system, how it's operating for you, and it's quick and easy. And I'm gone into the dark. And it's quick and easy, and you can efficiently just review your money and move on. But there was a research I saw the other day, and it said, and I was actually surprised. I thought it would be higher. I think it said something like 87% of our financial transactions are now digital. Yeah, and I actually, to be honest, thought it would be much, much higher. But we deal with cash very, very little. We are looking now, there's more and more kind of digital currencies coming up. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. There's a lot of chat around the dollar and its kind of future. Yeah, what the future of the dollar is going to be. And will we end up moving more to like the digital currency? We don't know. It's a lot of interesting conversations. People don't know. For me, I always just go, you know what? That's noise as well that's happening around us that sometimes can be overwhelming, and it's completely out of our control. Like, we have no control over what happens there, let's face it, as an individual. What I can control is what I'm doing with my money, and what I'm building and constantly searching for is ways for people to just quickly, easily understand that. That's the most powerful thing, and build from there.
Yeah. So I've found that as well. Like with organizing tools for my money, I haven't found anything decent when I tried it.
No. Well, keep an eye out for when mine launches.
Okay, you let me know. I'll try.
I will. My one source of truth, but going into software, it's on a Google Sheet right now. AI backed, almost there. And then the user interface on top. Coming in 2025. It's going to happen. 2025.
That would be amazing because I am a techie person, and so I will get the apps when they first come out, and I test things all the time, and especially apps, you know. So I've tried to find decent ones for money because clients always ask the same questions, and I've then I'm linked to the UK Apple Store, so I can get stuff from the UK. But as you said, it doesn't work because, okay, yes, it will work for my British accounts, but it won't work for my UAE accounts. So then you have to put everything manually. I can't be asked for that. But I have a friend, funnily enough, I was with one of my close friends yesterday, she was checking, she's all like, we've traveled together, we go out shopping and whatever. And she, as soon as we buy anything, she'll put it into her app. And I didn't realize she'd had her app for over 10 years.
Wow.
She could go in. So she logs in every time she spends any money into this app. She had put down where she went in Japan to a hotel, and she could tell me exactly which one it was and all the information so that to recommend for me to go there. But she's been meticulously putting this into this app for all these years, and it's a very basic interface. But I admire it, but I can't be asked. I want it to be automated.
Most people would say exactly that. That's amazing, but I'm not doing that.
No.
Because people say to me, Carol, are you going to make me track my expenses every day? But only if you get something from it. And also, I would say for people who do track them every day, if it's a positive experience for you and you enjoy it and you're making good decisions from it, amazing. But sometimes I see that where people it's a self-control thing. No, I must control, must know, which is a limiting kind of habit as well. But it depends. Each individual is different. Some people love that. Vast majority do not. I don't want to do that. I have too much going on.
Yeah,
No.
There's that. I don't want to do that. But also I think I just don't want to know what I am spending on, which is bad as well. But I get my credit card every month. I look at my statement. I see how much I've spent, and then I know, and I pay it off in full, but I know each month, okay, I've spent a bit more this month, or I've spent a bit less this month. I'm not in debt, so I'm fine. But yeah, but there is that element of, no, don't need to know that I bought another coffee, like, which I should stop buying, you know.
Well, why? I would ask why should we, because the coffee is a common thing.
Well,
should we stop buying? Does it add to my life? Yes. If not, then.
Well, I started last month. Yeah, in November I realized I'd go to a mall or go somewhere and end up buying a Spanish latte. So not even a cappuccino, like a fatty, sugary Spanish latte, which is not even a latte in Spain. And I was having one every day. It was ending up being every day. So that's 20 dirhams every day. That's another thing. But it was the fact that it's a sugary, fatty coffee that I don't need to have every day. And I was searching, you go to Carrefour and then you'd search for a coffee shop. So I was like, no, you're purposely searching for this bloody coffee. So you need to stop. So that wasn't about waste of money. That was, you're being ridiculous and becoming fat from Spanish lattes.
and that it's so interesting you bring that up. It's because exactly that, when we go through the numbers. So I would say, like, someone might say, like you did, I don't want to know. I'm terrified of what I'm going to see and what I need to then deal with or face up to or accept. And I said, you know what? But it's so, so powerful when we go through this. And I've had this exact kind of, well, not exact, similar example where when people realize how much they're spending on eating out, right? So I have a line there for coffee purely because I want to release the shame from buying coffees, because people were told as women, stop buying the coffee. Nonsense. Unless it's just you don't actually like coffee and you're doing it because, then get rid of it. Fine. If you genuinely enjoy it, fine. Spend the money. Reduce elsewhere. But when the eating out piece is kind of similar, this is why it's not just about the money. It's about your whole life. People say, this is my life in numbers, Carol. And the eating out piece, and again, worldwide, it is the number one line on let's say a budget that people regret spending money on. Yeah, it's the one they regret the most, was reported in the research. And people here in this region especially are often shocked by how much we spend on that, because it's so much part of our culture and our way of being here, and it's largely about connection. How do I see my friends, meet my friends? How do I bond with new people that I've just met? We go for drinks, we go for dinners, we go for lunches, whatever. It revolves around food in this place. So it tends to be, from what I see in other countries, higher here. But usually it's a line, especially for families, where they're like, whoa, we had no idea it was that much. Now, that's one thing. And we talk about, do you want to continue with this? Do you not? Whatever. But what families have frequently reported back to me is, you just reminded me when you said the health benefits. What they've said is, right, we realized we spend so much on it, and don't want to do that. Like, I mean, we just feel like that's not how we want to do it. It's the lunches, it's the breakfast, it's the coffees, it's the this things we hadn't even registered. We were thinking nights out, big dinners, which we don't do. So we decided to cook at home more, reduce that. And what they've actually come back, and multiple families have said to me, we are saving money, even though we're spending more on groceries. We are actually saving money overall. We're closer as a family. Our kids are coming in and cooking with us. We actually have more energy because we're eating healthier. We're out less. So we're home more. So we're going for walks. And they said, one family said to me, what triggered is we realized we were losing weight and we were sleeping better. And then they kind of went backwards and went, it's all because we saw this. And that's the beauty in looking at it and being brave and going, well, actually, I'm doing that, and then I don't want to do it anymore. Now that I realize the financial impact can be the trigger to go, well, actually, how am I living my life and what can I do different? And you might not save money, but it's rejigging because it's bringing that realization of this is what I'm doing. And that's where I often see that, especially just an example of the eating out piece when you mentioned fatty coffees.
Well, and it's funny. I was just thinking the whole reason for this month talking about finances and talking to you this episode was because in November the Spanish latte was a big thing, but it was ordering Deliveroo. So I work such long hours and then I come home, I'm physically exhausted. I don't want to cook. So I'd order from Deliveroo. So I was doing that. So that was, and it was the same. It was the health. It was the, and eating outdoors food is not nice after a while. You want to eat your own food, and enjoy that kind of thing. And so I was like, no, I need to stop this. I need to bulk bake chicken curries again and put some in the freezer and eat, do that. So that's what I started doing in December and cutting down on buying extra things and spending more on groceries. But only I was spending, the other problem was I would buy loads of groceries and then end up going out and then not using it and then it go off. So now I'm like, I just buy when I need to buy, which is another mindset change. So there's all these things. So that was the whole reason for me then going, I think I need to talk about finances generally, about being organized, because it's funny what triggers you. And so mine was Spanish lattes, but it could be other things with other people, but yeah. And it's led me to meet you. So because of just this thought in my, like, this is how we're spending finance, this is how we're dealing with our finances, organizing our finances. So it's been so
interlinked.
Yeah.
It's so interlinked. Because like I said earlier, everything we do has a financial impact. And if it is looking at, oh, that's too much money, triggers a positive thing somewhere else, then it's a win-win. I'm healthier and I'm saving money and I'm feeling better about how I'm spending my money. And it can be an extra motivation. Because if you say, right, I'm going to spend less than this and I'm going to put that extra 100 dirhams towards, and it has a purpose, it needs a purpose, is really important. And the purpose is I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to save for that, then you're much more likely to actually do it than you get home on a Friday night and you're exhausted and you're like, oh, I can't even be bothered defrosting the chicken curry. I'll just order. No, because I know I can feel myself feeling healthier. Tick the box, progress. I can see my bank account growing. Tick the box, progress. Right, get up and get the curry.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that. And I think that's been the beauty of like talking to you. So we've gone from you saying what the money is interlinked, and like I'm like, no, it is completely interlinked. And like hopefully other people will hear that today and go, oh yeah, that really is. That's how it's all linked together. It's been so fascinating talking to you. So tell everyone who's listening how they can get in touch with you, because I'm sure a lot of people want to get in touch with you to get help.
I'm most active on Instagram, so at consciousfinancicoaching.com. On LinkedIn, it's Carol Glynn under my own name, or you can just reach out, carol@consciousfinancicoaching.com. I'm happy to chat and help any way I can.
Awesome. And we're going to put all the details in the show notes as well, so everybody can find out. So thank you so much. It's just been so insightful and so just brilliant. A brilliant way to end this month talking about finances and financial wellness as well, I think. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
It was so wonderful to have Carol on the show today. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved what you heard, please spread the word by following, sharing, and liking this show. Thank you again to Carol for being on the show. And if you want to get in touch with her, I'll leave the notes in the show notes. Take care. Bye.